Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So this is actually my first video I'm filming on my new phone. I got the iPhone 12 Pro, so my camera quality should be very much upgraded for you, and I can see all of my fun little friends accentuated, so I know it is in fact a whole lot clearer. But anyway, today's video is just going to be a chill kind of talking video. It's the 25 things I've learned at 25 video that I alluded to in my last video, which is my BoxyCharm unboxing, which I will link down below. And actually, that video was filmed right behind me, so you're getting like the opposite perspective. Right now I'm facing my bed, and then you see my desk, my like little window right here, whereas like last video you were backwards. But yeah, I just wanted to do this video. As I mentioned, I was inspired by Carly Kloss, who did this, and I just figured like 25 is a great number. And I, over the past month or so, have been gathering a bunch of little isms or words of wisdoms or lessons that I've really just kind of learned, understood, still I'm trying to understand, still I'm trying to embody things that I wanted to just kind of share. Maybe it'll help you, and if nothing else, I look at my YouTube as kind of like a video diary, so I figured maybe this will be good for that. So if you want to see everything, I know this is not beauty or anything at all, but I just figured in the spirit of like a more lifestyle-esque thing, I would do this. So yeah, if you want to see and hear me preach for a little bit, don't forget to please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you know when I post, and without further ado, let's just go ahead and get on to the lessons, I guess. Okay, so right behind you, I have you propped up on my computer, so I have my lessons back here. It's like a whole essay, so I think I'm just going to run by them number by number, and I actually had like 35 total, but I narrowed it down to the most prominent 25, the most prevalent to my life, the most pertinent to my life. So I'm just going to be reading them, and I'm sorry if this is like a little bit boring, but yeah, maybe I'll just try to like expand upon them too. So number one, nothing is guaranteed. And I really wanted to start with this one because it is so true when we say like, we don't know what's next. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know how many days we have left. I would always preach like, man, I understand people who just do all this stuff and don't enjoy the everyday. Like, I get the hustle, I get savings, I get being wise for the future, but I don't get putting all your eggs into the future basket and not being able to enjoy today, because today is really all you have. I've established like a kind of rogue gratitude practice where I'll say 3 things I'm grateful for every morning when I first wake up, before I look at my phone, before I do anything, and before I go to bed. And it's really just helped shift my perspective, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Like, I feel whole, I feel content. Obviously I still have goals, ambitions, and aspirations, but I don't feel like I'm missing, like that void is filled because I acknowledge things silly, not so silly, that I have in my life. So yeah, that's number one. Number two, don't compare your situations to others, because we all move at our own pace. I was actually talking about this with my dad yesterday, about how just because you don't have something now doesn't mean that you won't in the future, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's, you know, something else that you may think you are missing. But everybody's on a different schedule, everybody's on a different path. You know, I'm so blessed to live on my own in another state, which was a decision I made on my own to just kind of branch out, spread my own wings, live with my dog. Like, I know that right now people my age and older are getting into like the relationship phase of their life, which is really awesome for them. But for me, I know that I'm gonna have that someday. I'm not yearning for it per se, because I know that I'm gonna have it one day, and I'm gonna look back at my situation now fondly, like, oh my god, like those days where I got to like have my freedom and live alone, and those blissful days where I was like creating, you know, my own life for myself and my dog. And I really treasure that. And I've been learning to just take appreciation and, you know, place value in the everyday mundane things like waking up and working and that routine, because I know I'm not going to have it forever. So yeah, that's pretty much my number two, is just enjoy the everyday and don't compare your situation to others. Everybody's on their own path. Number three, don't treat situations or people like a priority if they're treating you like an option. So don't carve out time for people who are wishy-washy with plans. Like, if they can't fit you in, if they're flaking, that speaks volumes enough. People who want to make time for you will. And I know this was something that I kind of touched on, or not touched on, but I made a whole video about this earlier this year. I really make time for people, and I really, really try to make an effort to show people. And I still do feel like I'm always the initiator, not just for any one particular situation, but for things in general. Like, that's just kind of how I am. Like, I'm an alpha, but more so for people who, you know, like, don't reach out. Like, do what makes you happy, and hold your pride and hold your dignity. If you can tell that you are, like, don't keep initiating if people don't respond, because there has to be a balance, right? So that's really what it is all about. It's like, just, if people are flaky, if people don't show interest, then don't not show interest just to be petty and be like an eye for an eye, but just learn to preserve what you feel is good for yourself, so that you don't go to bed feeling like dumb or stupid or like taken advantage of, you know, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah. Okay, number 4, people change, their priorities change, and their situations change, but it's up to you to deal with it and rise above. So basically, kind of like a springboard off the previous lesson, is more so like recognizing that just because other people's situations change, like, don't take that personally. Just realize, like, okay, this is what it is, accept it, and learn how to deal with it. If you can't change the outcome, because obviously you can't change people, and nor can they change you, just realize, like, that's all it is. It's just accepting and then learning how to deal with it, moving on, knowing that you did everything you could, having that peace of mind, and just learning to, like, let go sometimes. Can you tell these are all very, like, growth oriented? I feel like I've learned a lot the past couple of years. Specifically, this last year, 2020, has just been like, 2019 and 2020, I would say, are like the most, well, I would say each of these past few years that I've been, like, living alone has taught me, like, different lessons, but the majority of these are derived from really this year and last year. Number 5, you can remember the feelings and the connection, but you also have to remember the disrespect. So kind of, I guess, like a part 3 to those former 2 ones that I just talked about, but I want to say specifically for, like, a relationship standpoint, like a romantic standpoint, you know, if you go out and you have a great time with somebody and you remember that and you hold on to that, you have to also remember that they were disrespectful if they were, and you can't let the rose-colored glasses, like, cloud your vision as to why you keep holding on to this person, because the disrespect and their not so great qualities also have to be front and center when you make your decision as to how you want to proceed with that, how you want to act about them, etc. Number 6, don't get attached to the results. Stop fixating on what you want the outcome to be. And this is something that my mentor literally said this when I was fixated on this guy that I briefly dated this past summer. And, you know, but it's just a general universal lesson. Like, if you apply to a job, if you apply to a school, if you put an action out there, if you fixate on what you want the desired outcome to be and it doesn't happen, then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. So don't get attached to the result. Live your life, do your actions, put the stuff out that you want to do, and, you know, act on it, but it can't be like a cause and effect like that. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Okay, number 7, what's meant to be really will. And this is so true. And I remember distinctly, actually, speaking of my mentor and I had met back when I was interning at my mom's firm in high school. So I was, like, working as, like, a summer intern, and he was the person in a different department from the one that she worked in. And he was, like, my supervisor. And I remember he kept saying, like, what's meant to be will. Like, once you're older, you'll understand. And I was like, I don't really understand what that means, but it truly is. I'm going to have a future lesson that I want to mention in this, like, a different number. But it really is true. Like, what is meant to be will happen. Like, by everything that you're doing, by virtue of how the universe works, by virtue of you living your life, what's meant to be will happen. Number 8, when you find yourself investing time into something or someone, or it's taking up free rent in your mind, ask yourself what it's done to deserve that. Like, do they deserve for you to fixate and ruminate on that? Because I can almost guarantee 99% of the time, at least in my experience, the situations, either I'm overthinking or I'm thinking about a person, they don't deserve it at all. Like, and I'm just sitting there like, wow, it really is like free rent. Like, I could charge an arm and a leg for how much time I'm thinking about them. Number 9, anxiety. Thoughts are not facts. I am someone who struggles with anxiety. Things are seemingly going fine in my life and I'm sitting there like at surface level. I'm like, okay, nothing's like really wrong. My brain will do this thing where it tries to find something that's wrong for me to like fixate over, and for me to thus get anxiety over. And one of the things I've learned about anxiety, one of the tips I've learned is to realize that every time an intrusive thought comes into your mind, you remind yourself it's not a fact, it's just a thought. And then number two, like, think about, like, okay, like, let's say this really is true. Then so what? Then what? Then what? Then what? And once you get to that, like, worst case scenario and you can understand that and your mind thinks of that, you're like, okay, like, that's really not so bad after all. Something else I learned on TikTok was, like, I think a psychologist or somebody had said, like, okay, like, schedule a time in your day to overthink. Schedule a time in your day for anxiety, like 8 p.m. And then, you know, make sure, like, every time an intrusive thought comes in, like, be like, okay, like, I acknowledge you and I'll see you at 8 p.m. And you make an appointment for your thoughts. And then actually by the time that appointment comes, you forget about it and, like, you don't show up for it. So you just kind of, like, push it away, but not pushing it away where you're trying to, like, stifle it. You're just, like, acknowledging it, moving it to a time where you are like, okay, I'll give you attention, and then you don't. And that has worked for me too. Okay, number 10, at the end of the day, all you have is yourself. And that is so, so true. I just feel like in this day and age, like, people, and that's not to say, like, that's not to, like, shit on relationships or anything, but really, at the end of the day, like, all you have is yourself. Like, there's this one thing that I've seen where it's like, your money, your education, and your career are not going to wake up one day and decide to leave you. And I'm like, that's so true. Like, I've been in, you know, long-term relationship. I've been single for over a year now, and it really has been the most fulfilling year in my entire life. And just to touch on this really quickly, like, I will look back on previous years that I was in a relationship and I would think to myself, like, wow, the growth between who I am now versus who I was then is astronomical. Like, back then, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So back then you're living your life and you're happy and you're with this person, but at the same time, for all of the minor things that you have to either excuse or deal with, like, you're like, okay, it's fine in the moment, but you don't realize how liberated you feel afterwards. You don't realize how much you return to yourself afterward. And it's really only something that you can see once you've gone out of it. So for me, this past year, like, it really has been so amazing to just be liberated and free and focus on being in my 20s. Like, I don't know, and just me, like, having this, like, genuine stupid smile on my face, like, it's been really, really nice. And yeah, I'm excited for the next chapter. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say. At the end of the day, all you have is yourself. So nourish yourself, be happy, do what makes you happy, and yeah. Okay, number 11. I'm sorry this video was so long. I'm going to try to condense this when I'm editing, but even if you want to say something so badly in the moment, take a step back and reevaluate. And this is especially prominent. I've learned this really over this past year, like, working from home, when you do everything over text or IM or email. Like, if your tone is off, force yourself to, like, add a smiley or an exclamation, because you never know how far it can go. Like, you never know how your kindness can affect people. Like, I'm somebody who is very emphatic in the way that I talk and the way that I message, because I don't want people to misconstrue my tone. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't care, it's just like an email. And for sure it is, but for me personally, I know how it affects me if I'm reading something else that seems off. And even though that's probably not their intention, I know that I can only control what I do. So therefore, I am someone who always wants to come across as being kind to others. Even if you're annoyed, even if you're, you know, having a bad day, like, I try to not take that out on other people. And of course, probably I fail sometimes, but I just want to do the best that I know that I can and be the best that I know that I can. Okay, number 12, family, then friends, then relationships. You'll have the first two longer and to fall back on until your relationship becomes your family. Make effort into those and don't take them for granted. So kind of going back off of, like, my previous lesson, it's pretty self-explanatory here. Like, yeah, don't be that person to lose your friends over a relationship. That's pretty much all that is. Self-explanatory, right? And pretty much everybody knows this, but okay. Number 13, evaluate what is worth your energy. Don't make mountains out of molehills, because when you get angry at somebody, when you get angry at a situation, that's just taking up your energy. And that's just, you know, making you mad and attracting negativity into your life. So once you realize you're at a point where you're, like, ruminating so much, like, evaluate, like, is this really worth it? Like, do I need to be mad over this? Should I be mad over this? Like, does this situation deserve for me to have this much energy into this? Like, and I say this to my mom all the time, because my mom, I know she watches these videos, but I know she gets very heated very quickly over small things, and we all do. But I tell her, I'm like, I know this other situation or this other person is causing you this negativity. Like, are they worth that? Like, are they worth that because they're causing you that? Okay, number 14. There are always two sides to every story. Before you discount someone's perspective or close-minded to something, remember that you don't know what you don't know. They say truth is an absolute, but sometimes it isn't. And this is something that really this year I've realized is like, okay, even if you have a really polar opposite view on something than somebody else, like, understand, like, they are thinking that way for a reason, and you are thinking this way for a reason, and they might think that of your perspective, even if it seems like common sense to you, because everybody is so different. So I know some things are black and white, you know, some things are just right and wrong, but for some things that are more gray, like, at least if you don't agree, then just, like, you know, that's just our prerogative to have our prerogative. Okay, number 15, do what makes you happy. Idiosyncrasies are good, and I actually love that word so much. I'm a very idiosyncratic person. I also have a unique perspective on a lot of different things, and I'm not ashamed of that. I am really happy with who I am, and I know there's a lot of things that I want to improve upon, but at the end of the day, like, I love to film YouTube videos. I love to play music. I love to play with makeup. I love to hang out with my dog. I love to go on adventures. Like, I love all these different things that make me me. And yeah, you should love the things that make you you too. Okay, number 16, being alone is a beautiful thing. I think, did I already say this one? I'm just going to say it again. Being alone is a beautiful thing. Use that time to develop yourself, spend time with a pet, work on your hobbies when you have anxiety or intrusive thoughts. You know, do something that will take your mind off of it. For me, it's picking up my guitar, playing piano, you know, picking up an eyeshadow brush, cuddling my dog, going for a walk, watching YouTube, watching TikTok, doing TikToks, cooking, like cleaning. Like, there's so many different things that you can do, like reading. Number 17, there's rarely such a thing as a failure. It's a lesson. And I saw this somewhere. I don't remember where exactly, but I was like, holy shit, that's so true. It's like, what do you mean you fail? Like, you didn't do something right, but that's just a lesson as to what you won't do next time. And lately, I've been really just kind of like keeping that at the forefront of my mind, because I'm like, if I do something and it doesn't yield the result I want, like, I just know that when I do it again, I don't do that. And it's a lesson learned. And it's made me a lot less fearful of trying new things, which is a really, really good thing. I don't let that stop me from, you know, doing that, because there is no reward without risk, right? You want to not be afraid of doing stuff, because even if you fail, it's just a lesson for what you won't do next time. And you can take that as a positive thing. Number 18, sometimes when things are falling apart, they're actually falling into place. This is something that I actually saw on one of my like little calendars I keep at like my desk at my office. It's just like one of those flip a day calendars with like the individual day, and then it has like a little like word of the day or quote of the day. And that's when I saw in there, and I was like, holy crap, that's like so true. You might not know it in the moment, but really it's like when one door closes, another opens. Like, you may think like this breakup is the worst thing of your life, but actually it's pointing you in the direction of something that's meant to be. Or like when you lose a job, like, I've had a couple of different people in my life who, you know, like lost their job, and they were like devastated, obviously, right? Because in the moment you don't realize like there might be something better for you. You just think about the loss, but then they move on and they get an even better job and they're much happier. And they didn't know that they could be that happy because they were at the previous setup. So it really just is something that we have to keep in mind, even if we think that we're like, you know, doing really horribly. Number 19, you haven't met your end goal yet. You're exactly on your path. Just because you don't have it now doesn't mean that you won't, and it keeps life exciting. So I know some of these kind of may seem like they're the same, and I'm sorry. There are more so things that I just kind of like typed out all willy-nilly. But yeah, I think you haven't met your end goal yet, and that's really, really exciting. Like, I haven't met my permanent job yet. I haven't met my husband yet, or maybe I have, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that situation is yet. Like, I don't know what my house is going to be like. I don't know, you know, I don't know the future. I don't know my destiny yet, as weird as that may sound, which is really, really exciting. And I'm really happy to not know everything about my life. That's super exciting to me that I don't know what I don't know. Number 20, we never learn anything or advance as humans without adversity. No growth comes from being stagnant. There is no growth if you're just doing the same thing, not taking risks, and not losing people, not losing situations. they're all just moving puzzle pieces, and like chapters are not your entire story, which is kind of like previous from the previous one. So yeah. Okay, number 21. This is a very important one too. This is, don't hold other people to the standards that you hold yourself to that causes disappointment. So for example, I know this is going to sound really strange, but bear with me. This is like kind of topical. So for example, when I celebrate a friend's birthday, I make sure that they're loved with like elaborate sentiments. I love handwritten cards. I love like showering them with love, like with gifts, like social media posts. But I know that not all others are like that. Like a lot of people in my life aren't that way, and their love language isn't that way. So at face value, you may seem like, oh my God, that's disappointing. I did that all for them and they didn't do that for me. And yeah, to a certain extent, like it's not like I'm super excited about it, but I have to take a step back and be like, okay, that's not everybody's love language. That's not everybody's way of expressing their love. Just because I do something one way doesn't mean that everybody else has to or should or will, because we're all so different. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they love you any less, that they care about you any less. It's just their way of expressing things, because we all are so different. So that's something that I've really been trying to understand a little bit more, and really just kind of be like, okay, like calm down, don't take it personally. Like just because you do X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that they have to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, when one door closes, another really opens. If you focus all your energy on the past, you cannot channel energy into rebuilding the new or building the new. And do you see how I like looked at like the camera the whole time I was saying that? Because that's something that I literally say to myself every day. You can't have energy to put into focusing on the new stuff if you're focusing all of your energy onto the old stuff. I mean, come on, that's just like physics at that point. Number 23, perhaps the one that I've been saying the most: you will never lose what's meant for you. You will never lose what's meant for you. If you have a breakup, if you lose a job, if you get fired, that just means it wasn't meant to be for you, by virtue of the fact that it's not there. I was talking about this with my sister, who was having a hard time with something, and she was like freaking out, and I was like, okay, well then so what? So what if that happens? Kind of like the whole anxiety thing. It's right. It's like, so what if that happens? So what? Okay, if you know they do X, Y, and Z. So what if that happens? Then that just means they weren't really meant for you, or that wasn't really meant for you. Because if they can walk away, or if that leaves, it just means you're not meant for it, and it's not meant for you. Okay, number 24. No matter who has wronged you, be the best person you can for yourself, because that's all you have at the end of the day. Your judgment of yourself is the most important thing. Hold yourself to the highest standard possible. Like, don't hold on to grudges, accept pain, deal with pain. Don't be a doormat, but also be the best person and treat it like a lesson and just like move on. Because really, like going to bed and knowing that you can sleep in peace, knowing that you did everything you could, that you were the best person that you could, that you didn't fight fire with fire, that you are taking the high road. Sometimes it's so annoying, like really it is. I'm sure we've all been there, but sometimes knowing that you did everything you could and knowing that you were right in that situation is really all that you can do. And number 25, perhaps not the most like pithy one or most wise lesson per se, but the hardest part is getting started, which I guess is a good kind of like last lesson for this. Sometimes I feel like when I want to read a book or, you know, start a new journal or start a new task, I keep like procrastinating because I'm like, okay, like it's there. It's like kind of exciting, but the hardest part really is getting yourself up to like do it and having like the green light and the fire underneath your ass to get that started. If you want to go to the gym, the hardest part is getting changed and walking to the gym. It's not actually working out. It's changing your mentality to do that. So knowing that that's the hardest part, make it the easiest part and just start it. Don't think about it, just start it. And yeah. All right, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed this weird, I don't know how many people will enjoy this, but this like weird, like rambly 25 things I've learned at 25, I just like rambled on. And these are by no means, as I mentioned, everything that I feel like I've like learned, but these are 25 of the most important things that I've learned that I really want to continue to, you know, espouse and think about and keep at the forefront of my mind. Because yeah, as I mentioned, like 85 times, like all you have is yourself. All you have is your character. And yeah, I would love it if you commented a lesson that you've learned that maybe I've touched on, or something else that you want to share, and we can just turn this into kind of like a discussion, or maybe just kind of like sharing what you think. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know that someone asked for a day of my life vlog, which I can definitely do. I have a lot of videos planned that I want to do. It's just with the holidays and stuff like that, it's going to be harder to film at my normal regular setup. But yeah, let me know what you guys want to see next. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed it. I hope you guys did. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye!